Hey folks, welcome back for another Feature Friday. I'm your host Ryan Glover, and this week we're going to be building a product switcher. So this is a feature that I've had in mind for Command, the SaaS that I've been working on the past few months. This is a feature that I've had in mind for a while now. I've just been distracted by the revenue feature, which, if you've been following along, is finally done. It's working, it's performant, and it's doing what I want it to do for the time being. So we're going to start shifting our conversations on Fridays here away from that and on to some more interesting stuff. So to give me a little bit of a break, we're going to work on something kind of simple today. So this is going to be a feature where users will be able to, while they're viewing a product inside of Command, be able to click a drop down and quick switch instead of having to go back to the full products list to switch to another product. So trying to reduce the number of clicks or the number of like logical hops that somebody would have to make. And this is just a user experience type of thing. So what I want to do is I want to take us over to Command right now. So this is Command that's deployed into production. And what I wanted to do to start this is literally start this how I would do it if I was doing it completely from scratch by myself. And I think this one we can fit into one video. That's why I want to do this. I want to show you my full process, but I don't want to do it on something where it's, like this really convoluted or complicated feature that takes a bunch of time, because it kind of fragments my process, which doesn't make it as useful for you. So hopefully this is. So what I wanted to do to start us off today is just show you how I plan out a feature and how I organize stuff before I actually get into writing code. And then we are going to get into writing code. So you can see here that I've already spun up a new card inside of Command. So this I'm deciding is a feature, which means, so you can see I've got idea and feature here. So ideas are things that I'm not committed to, but features are things where I'm like, yep, I'm going to build that. That's definitely going to happen. So I've gone ahead and set it to feature. And I'm just calling this thing product switcher. So you can see like actionable title for this feature. I'm 50-50 on this. Sometimes I'll say like add ability to switch products, or I'll just call it what it is. And usually it's pretty obvious. And when it's just me working by myself, I don't really need to get too explanatory with this stuff, because it's me. It's me writing it. It's me. So generally, between the title and the requirements and any comments I add, I'll be able to know what I'm doing if I were to log this in the past and then come back to it in the future and do some work on it. So what I'm going to do here is say this is a product switcher, and you can see I've already added a few items. I thought about this after the fact. I was like, wait a minute, this might be cool to see. So what I've put on the list so far, I've got add a popover inside of the view product page. And to show you what I mean, so back here I've got, and I've kind of spec'd this out already. I just haven't done the work. So you can see here, I kind of set it up to do it, but it's not actually functional. So we'll need to build that. So what I'm thinking is you'll click here, and kind of like you get inside of an app like Slack. Like I think you click on like the organization name in the top left corner or your name in the top left corner. You get like this neat little popover. Kind of want to steal that idea and do that. So we're going to do that. We're going to say popover inside of the view product page. And we need to make this work, fetch a list of the user's products. And I was thinking it would be nice to have a search if there's too many products. So realistically, most people are only going to have maybe one or two products with this. But for example, like when I'm doing mentorship, we use Command to organize all the mentees' work. And I personally have a ton of products that I'm tracking. So anybody that I'm working with, they get their own product inside of Command. So I have to add myself to that product so I can work with them. And that list is too long. So it'd be nice if before I'm getting ready to work with somebody, I could just search their product's name and click on it, as opposed to having to like scroll through a list and figure it out. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So it'd be nice if, okay, past a certain amount, and I'm thinking like, like maybe 5 products. Like if you have more than 5, then we'll set it up so you have to search through them. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here. Well, we need a design for the popover. And generally speaking, like this list is just like general reminders for me. Most of it is in my head, but it is good to kind of know like, oh, okay, this is roughly what you need to do. Don't forget this. Let's say consider adding product icon if it exists. And that's the way that I treat this. So it's got this idea of like what are the requirements for the thing that you're building, but in this case, I also use it as reminders like, hey, don't forget this. Make sure that you consider this. All right, so that should do it for this, at least for now. And the nice thing about this is I can just come back and add stuff later if we think about it. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And before we get started, I'm going to add this just in case we don't finish. So the current version that I'm working on is this 070. So this has a bunch of stuff in it, like the revenue tracking stuff and all kinds of other little fixes and stuff. This is one I've been working on for way too long. And you can see my schedule is off here quite a bit. So I got to play catch up. So let's go ahead and focus on this one. So the way that I actually get into the work is I start over in Git. So the way that I'm organizing my work nowadays is I've got, let's take a look at this. So in terms of Git branches, I do a version branch, which is going to map back to a version here in command. So I've got 070, 080, so on and so forth. So that gets its own branch to encapsulate all of this work. But then I also do feature branches, and that's the generic name I use. So the different types in command, you've got like features, bugs, chores, all the different types. So I'll do a branch of that type for whatever that card is in command off of the version branch. So here I've got 070. So in this case, and if you haven't heard about this before, and you're just starting to see these for the first time, I use a library called Git Extras to help me manage all this. So Git Extras is a fantastic library, and it gives you a bunch of different commands to streamline the process of working with Git. So if you've ever said like, good Lord, this takes like 10 commands to do this one task in Git, definitely check out Git Extras because it just makes the whole process easier. And one of the things that it does really well is this Git feature. Yeah. So what it does is it allows you to not just create branches of a certain type, but it also helps you to manage them. So we'll see where we get today in terms of our work, but eventually we'll run through the full gamut of how this Git Extras feature works. So what I'm going to do is say, well, I called this a feature inside of command. So I'm going to say Git feature, and then we're going to give it a name. And the name that I usually give it is a combination of two things. So it's a rough explanation of what the title is. So this one's pretty short, so I'm just going to use that. But if this was like add ability to switch between products, I might call the branch like switch dash products or something like that. So it's not like a scientific thing. It's just what makes sense to you in the moment and what's going to be descriptive enough for you to understand what it is that you're doing on that branch. So in this case, I've got product switcher, and then I also include the card number or issue number if you're using something like GitHub Issues. So what that does is it tells me, okay, not just what was I working on, but how can I reference more detail on what I was doing. So if I forget like, oh, I was working on this card, or if maybe I hire somebody to work with me, or I'm working as part of a team and they want to know like, oh, what is that about? They can just reference the issue number off of that. So here I'm going to say Git feature, and we're going to say product dash switcher. So my syntax is I'll usually put like dashes in between whatever the title is, an underscore, and then give myself the number, which I have forgotten already. 162. All right, so we're going to say 162. Okay, so now we are in that branch. So this is the nice part about Git Extras. So what that just did is it essentially did like a git checkout dash B, which is switch into this new branch that I want you to create, and it gives you this nice syntax of I'm working on a feature with this name. So it's doing like product switcher number 162. Kind of nice. So what we're going to do, let's clear out on that, is get to work. So the way that I start most of my features or anything like that, if I can, so again, it depends on the feature, but if I can do it, I'll start with the design first, just so I can visually see what it's going to look like on screen, and also make sure that I'm focusing on the customer experience. So I'm very big on making sure that the way that this thing works is something that's going to make sense to the user, more so than it's going to make my life easy as the developer. And that 100% of the time has played out in favor of my kind of like my long-term goals much more than it has if I focused on like, well, I want to do this as a developer. That usually doesn't work out. People aren't too happy. So what we're going to do is start with the design. So in order to do this, I'm going to jump into the app directory here. And if that doesn't make any sense, jump back to the last 2 or 3 Feature Fridays here where we talked about building a job server. So that'll explain why I've got this jobs directory in here. But my core app is in here. So we're going to do our work here today. So what I want to do is actually start with the view product page because I don't remember the structure of that. I want to see, because I know I've done, like I said, some work here, but not all the work. Yeah, so I've got product switcher here and the little down thing. Doesn't look like I added any events. Ah, okay. So I did think through this a little bit up until the point of saying blah, test blah. So this I did probably a month and a half, 2 months ago. I remember I was like sitting at a coffee shop and I did this on a whim, but then I put it down. So what is products list? Ah, okay, it's just a style component. So what I'm going to do is rip this out. I think that's going to be a better way to do this. So what we're going to do is start in the UI components directory, and we're going to create product switcher. And you'll notice I'm big on keeping names consistent. So I called this product switcher in the cards in command. I called it product switcher in here. So I'm going to call my files product switcher. So the point of that, and I'm going to use a little keyboard shortcut here to spin up a component real quick. The point of that is to make sure that the amount of thinking that you have to do while you're developing a feature is limited. Because if you're changing the name of something even a little bit, like if I called this product dropdown or something like that, that's adding just a little bit more cognitive weight that I have to process. I have to do something with, like, or I guess I call it cognitive weight. So that's mental weight that I have to lift. I have to think like, oh, wait, what the hell does that mean? Whereas if I say product switcher, my brain doesn't even skip a beat because it's the same name everywhere. So it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I know what I'm working on. Or if I'm coming back to this later, I know what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do, and you'll notice here I'm using a class component, which I know everybody's going to have a heart attack. The point of that, again, is consistency. So throughout the rest of this product right now, I'm using a lot of class components, and where it makes sense, I'm using functional components. I haven't really moved to using hooks or anything like that. This is one of those things that I see a lot of people wasting time on when they could be developing, because technically speaking, I'm not building Facebook here. I do hope that a lot of people use this, but I don't think it's going to be at the scale where that much of an optimization is necessary. Like, oh, okay, loading however many KB into memory because I used a class component versus a functional component with something like hooks. That doesn't really faze me that much. I worry about that stuff when it's actually a problem. So in this case, we're going to say, and this stuff changes quite a bit. So I never really look at something as set in stone until I've actually like gotten some of the work implemented. So let me shut my mouth for a second. I'm trying to think through this. Like, what the hell am I doing? So we're going to call this style product switcher. So this is just to avoid variable or name collision here with the actual class name. So I know this is the styled component. So the reason I'm doing this is so I can do that. And what we're going to do is say, I don't know why this came to mind, but testeroni. So we're thinking about macaroni today. Actually, one of my buddies called me the other day, and he was like, how mean would it be if you named your kid, like his legal name was Marcaroni, and then everywhere he went, he like, if he had to get a driver's license, he's like, yes, my name is Marcaroni. Cracked me up. We're going to keep prop types because we're probably going to need that. So why don't we do this? Let's take this, and we're going to go back over to view product, and we're going to import this. Yeah. So we're going to say product switcher from switcher. Yeah, that's right. Set product switcher. And we're going to put this, where'd it go? Right here. So instead of products list, we'll do that. And let's get rid of that dependency from up here. And you get out of here. This is one that I do like to do, is just try and have some level of discipline. Because it's very easy to muck up a project with a lot of stuff you're not using. And you can see, like, even right here, like, I'm not using this component, so I can get rid of this import. And it's not like you're a bad person if you forget these things, because these projects tend to be pretty huge and there's a lot of moving parts. But when and where you can, it's a good kind of habit to just be like, okay, I'm going to take the time to clean up here. And generally speaking, I'll do that before I start something new, or ideally when I'm finishing up development on whatever the thing was that introduced all the stuff I didn't need. So let's see here. We've got our product switcher imported and we're rendering it. Okay, so I'm going to change this state value. So I'm going to say show product switcher instead. And we're going to save that and make sure everything is not blowing up. I don't see why it would, but let's make sure we're in the clear here. A manual refresh. Sometimes it stinks. Oh, okay. Good. So what we're going to do now is actually make this appear. So technically it exists, but we can't get to it because we're not actually setting that state value. So what we want to do is... So I'm on the fence with this. So sometimes when I do events, so we need to say, when we click on this thing, this whole area up here, we want to toggle that product switcher. So we're going to say on click here. And I've been trying to be a little more organized with this. So I used to do these like inline. I would just do my set state call here. But I found it does get messy over time. So what I'm going to do is say this, meaning the component instance. And I'm going to say this dot handle toggle product switcher. Ain't that a name? Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna pop this down here for now. Generally speaking, I don't really have a method to the madness of organizing these, short of the linter yelling at me when I do something like this. I'm pretty sure it'll start barking if I do that. Yeah, so it says like certain things should be after component will mount, but besides that, it's like as long as I can get to it and find it later, happy camper. So what we're going to do for this is just say this.set state, and we're going to use the callback method of set state because we need to reference the current value. So this is neat if you're going to change the state value based on the current state value. So in this case, I want to invert whatever the current state of what the hell did I call it? Show product switcher? Yeah, show product switcher. So we're going to say right here, we're passing a function to set state. So as opposed to doing an object, like if I said set state and then some object and show product switcher like true or something like that. Instead of that, we can automate the process based on the current value. So we know that we're trying to manipulate the DOM based on what the state of show product switcher is. So we can just say, okay, set show product switcher on state back to the inverse of show product switcher. And you're probably, some of you are like, what the f is he talking about? So let's break this down a little bit. So we've got set state, and then we're passing a function to set state. That function by React is past the current value of this dot state. So like basically you're getting that. So what I'm doing here is I'm destructuring that to say, well, I want show product switcher off of state. So the alternate version of this would be something like that. State.show product switcher. So I'm just saying here, go ahead and destructure it because I know exactly what I want. And then what I'm doing in that function is I'm returning an object that represents the state value that I'd like to move towards or transition towards. So here I'm saying set state to show product switcher. And in this case, I don't know if it's going to be true or false. It's totally dependent on what the current value is. So back up here, we have show product switcher set to false by default. So we know that, oh, okay, we're going to not be seeing that on screen. So the first time that I click on the header, technically speaking, it should toggle it to true if this code behaves the way that we want it to. So we're going to save that. And I do that right? What are you yapping about? Accessibility stuff. So let me see if it'll let me get away. This is roll presentation something. Yeah. Okay. So let's jump back over here. And yeah, that seems to. Still refreshing. Testeroni, nice. So that looks absolutely hideous, but the functionality works. So that's what we want. And I'm going to do a little detail here. So notice how right now the arrow is pointing down. When it's open, I want it to point up. I want to suggest like, hey, you should close this. It's the little details, man. I'm telling you. Those are the things that, you know, a lot of folks overlook, but you got to add them in, because when you do, it's when you get the big bucks, you fetch your motivation. If you're just having fun, then, you know, ignore me. What did I just copy? So chevron down. So this.state show product switcher. So if we're currently showing it, meaning it's true, we want this to be up. Otherwise, we want it to be down. Hopefully my brain is working this morning, so we'll see. We're about to find out. Place your bets. Nice. Look at that. And like, I love those little things because they add context and they're giving visual feedback to the user, so they're kind of telling them. And we can actually see a memory leak here. So notice when I toggle this, it's rerunning this query, which is no bueno. So I got to figure that out later. So it's like a little disco here. All right, be an adult. All right, so let's see here. Back to the product switcher design. So now we're gonna have some fun with this. Let's see. Trying to understand the structure here. So I've got product navigation, which we put under view product. Okay, so product navigation is fixed. Okay, so I did do some stuff. It's actually quite interesting. What did I? Oh, yeah, this is terrible naming here. I'm getting confused. I'm like, wait a minute, product switcher. I didn't add a class for that. So I'm gonna call this product switcher toggle instead. That's a more accurate name for this. Yeah, because now the event lines up with the name and everybody's happy. At least I'm happy because I'm a crazy person, but I dig it. So we're gonna do one of those. And I don't think I would have it anywhere else in here, but let's check. Nope, just that one. So we're good. So save that. We're back in business. So now, this is making a little more sense. I was like, how did I have a design for this already? So the only thing I really care about is how this positions. So what I mean by that is I want this to kind of float above the column. I don't want it to just, like it's doing right now, where it kind of injects in line. I don't want to do that. So we're going to try and throw some styles on this. So I'm going to say this is position absolute. I'm going to say top 100%, left 10 pixels, right 10 pixels, and I'll explain how I know this in a sec. Meaning how I know that this is going to align in the way that I want. I know that I have a CSS variable called blacklight, which is like a light gray, like an EEE color that I use for borders. And then I'm going to give this like a padding of... No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Ooh, what's that going to look like? I'm not going to do that. Not yet. And we're going to throw a border radius on there because we like it smooth. Smooth jams. Teddy Pendergrass. If you've never listened to Teddy Pendergrass, oh yeah, you got to get on that. But be careful though. It's explosive. All right. I don't see it anymore. Where did it go here? So let's check our positioning back here. So I've got let's close this stuff up. And sometimes I'll do that while I'm working. I'll just kind of like collapse stuff so I can see where the hell the lines do or do not fall. Okay, so product navigation. What are your style? No, your position fixed. So maybe this is like a Z index bug. Let's see. Styles product switch. So I'm just going to give this something obnoxious to begin with, just to make sure it's not hiding behind something. And generally, if I can't find something while I'm styling it, I'll just jump into here and find it by hand. No, it has decided to take a vacation, so let's see if we can find it in here. So we've got product navigation. Are you the switcher? Testeroni, yeah, where are you? Oh, okay, I see what's up. So my brain was thinking that the product switcher was being rendered relative to or inside of product switcher toggle. So my brain was thinking, okay, if I give this a top 100%, that means that it's going to push it the 100% from the top of the parent element. So I thought it was only going to push it down to right beneath this border right here, but it actually shoved it all the way to the bottom. We can't even see it. So if I come in here and I say top 20 pixels, there it is. See how it kind of came in? So we need to be a little more careful here. So we're going to have to do this by hand, but that is okay. I'm not against that. So about top 50 pixels instead of 100%. So let's say top 50 pixels. And I notice this thing is transparent. So we're going to say background, give it some white. Yeah, that's how you, that's what comes out right before you go to jail. Okay. So that's looking a little bit better. So if you were kind of confused by what I was talking about with the whole Slack thing, hopefully this is starting to make a little more sense. Except we got to get rid of testeroni. So now what I want to do is actually start to mock out how the list is going to look. So again, we're trying to build a list of products here that you're going to be able to switch between. So, well, we know that we're going to have a list of some sort, and I am going to call this an ordered list because I'll probably do it alphabetically just so it's not a total disaster. And I know that we're going to need a link to whatever it is. So we're going to say link to, so this component link is coming from, and it may be imported already. No, this comes from the React router library. So, and more specifically React router DOM. So link is a component that you can use to push the user or move the user to a new route without having to do a browser refresh. So basically what this is doing is it's triggering a, if you've ever heard of the HTML5 push state, technically beneath the surface of React router, like inside of React router, they're using history.pushState quite a bit to update the browser's push state, which gives you that nice like moving between URLs without actually refreshing the page or acting like you're clicking on like a traditional HTML link. So I'm going to say, for now, this doesn't matter. We'll just say potatoes. Why not? I actually made too many potatoes the other night. I went to Costco, which if you've never been, that's an experience, man. I don't want an A in there. I'm going to do, actually, I could just do the plain text. This is where you got to think a little bit. So let's see here. I kind of want, so what I'm seeing in my head is I would like to do like an icon for the product. So technically speaking, let's see if we can toggle this right now. Yeah. So we're going to upload a product logo. So we're going to say, look at this messy setup. YouTube icon. Yeah, you should do. Might look a little doofy, but it's broken. Is it broken? No, it's just me. So I've got this product icon up here, and what I'm thinking is we'll show the icon next to each product. because I know that sometimes you use that as like your memory of what the thing is. So before we actually get into that, I'm going to use one of my favorite tools, which is Phil Murray. If you've never seen this, or what's the other one? Place Cage is another good one. Let's call this product logo. And then in here, I'm just going to do a span, and we'll say product name. And then I'm going to manually replicate these or duplicate these. So we'll just do that, and then we'll style that up, and then eventually we'll move back once we have live data. And we'll do it that way. Actually, this is all wrong. We're doing this in the wrong place. Yeah, this isn't right. So this is right, but remember, we're doing this as a component, and I didn't really explain why. So product switcher over here is the component. This is where the content needs to go. And so the idea here is that, well, product switcher is going to have quite a bit going on inside of it. So we know that we got to query our GraphQL schema to get some data out, and we're going to have to do all kinds of stuff in here. There's going to be interactions, like we're going to have to click on stuff. So it's going to be a lot tidier to keep it in here more so than back here in view product. So that's all we should need in that file. So now that means I got to pull this link dependency into here, not the other file. So we're going to say React router DOM. That should be kosher so far. So let's save that. Get rid of that. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So just try and remember as you're going just to clean up, because eventually that can spiral out of control and not a good scene. And let's see here. Yeah, there we go. So now, am I getting philmurray.com? So let's make sure I'm not blocking this still. So browser policy is a package built by the Meteor development group. So they're the folks that were responsible for building Meteor, or are responsible for building Meteor. And this package allows you to configure the the browser policy, but like the core security policies for where data can be loaded from. So you have different domains that you can use. So here I've got it. Phil, did I spell it correctly? philmurray.com. Yeah, I did. I hope it's not down. Oh, no. Oh, no, we're good. There he is. Our old buddy Bill. Okay. I kind of remember this from not too long ago while I was using this. You have to put www, and I think they updated the DNS. So that didn't work. It's a disaster. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to back this up, and I'm going to say www. And we go boop, 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 boop. Save it. Now we should have a picture of Bill Murray in here. And we've got product. Oh, no, that's right. It's just the alt text. There you go. All right. So now we got to make this actually look halfway decent. So what I'm thinking is we'll go into, let's close some stuff. So we should be done with that. And we're just going to focus on the product switcher styles here. So what I'm thinking, so we know we have an ordered list with list items. So something that I'll also do is just kind of plan out my CSS beforehand. And, try and tell myself where I'm going. Okay, so I know that we're going to knock off the default list style. I know that it's going to have a default padding and probably a default margin, so we're going to nuke those. And then I'm also thinking that, well, I know that I want these to be about 10 pixels padding. And we're going to say, and not last child. So this little selector is quite the doozy. So what this is saying is on every list item that isn't the last one or isn't the last child, I want to apply the style. So the reason I did that is because I want to have a border on everything but the last one. And that's so that we don't get a double border down here once this sets. So we're going to say black, light. Whew, that's a lot of thinking. So we're gonna save that. See where we got. See where we got. See where we get. Not bad. Okay. So that's quite the chunky picture of Bill Murray. So we're gonna scope that down. So what is your story? What's the sizing on this? 30 by 30. So we're gonna steal that. See if it looks okay. So we're gonna say, and you know what? I'm just gonna do this now. I'm gonna say display flex line item center. So this is gonna make sure that they're vertically aligned together, meaning the icon and the text. So we're gonna do that. And what did I just say? Image. Or say width 30 pixels, height 30 pixels. We're gonna smack a 30 pixel radius on there. So that's what gets you the circle kind of effect. You're doing an even radius on all sides equal to the width and height of the element. Woo! Look at that. We're getting there. We're getting there. We gotta bring that text size down though, cause that's looking hideous. Let's see here. So what did I call it? I said that was a span. So just to make my life easy, I'm gonna say display inline. No, I'm gonna leave that off for now. I want a margin between those two. So a span tag by default is display inline, which means it can't take on margins. But I need a margin left here so that this doesn't look too doofy. So we're going to say margin left 10 pixels. So inline block leaves the element inline. And this is a conversation that can expand for hours. But it leaves the element inline, but it gives it the ability to take on positioning like a block element. That's the easiest way to think about that. So we've got margin left 10 pixels, display inline block, and let's also scale down that font size. So generally what I'll do is I'll cop the styles or take the styles from whatever the nearest example is. So in this case, this title is 15 pixels. So visually, I don't want this text to be bigger than that. And this comes into typographical hierarchy. So you don't want, I mean, you can, but you don't technically want things to look out of place. Like right now, this is too big. It looks incorrect. Something doesn't seem right. So if I kick that down to 15 pixels, we're also going to say line height 15 pixels. And we're going to steal a little trick from our buddy Chris Coyer. I don't know Chris Coyer. I wish I did. I like Chris Coyer. He's a cool guy. CSS tricks, ellipsis. Yeah. So thinking a little bit ahead here, I'm gonna steal this doodle. And the reason I just did this is we're gonna save that. We're gonna come back over here. We're gonna say product name because someone couldn't control themselves. So the punchline here is that somebody might have an extremely long product name. Not that long, and I could probably mitigate this problem quite a bit by forcing people to have only such a long title, but there's no telling what somebody would call something, so we gotta accommodate potentially long names. So by making that longer, and let's see if this actually worked. That didn't, but white space, no wrap. I think it needs a width, so I'm going to say width calc is 100% minus the width of that image plus the margin on the left, 40 pixel. I think that'll work. Let's see. Let's see here. Huh! Okay, so it did, and it did the ellipsis, but it did in a funky way. Why did it do that? Is it because of the A tag? I think it's because of the A tag. So what we're going to do is take this, and we're going to say that. And you know, I'm also going to set that to display inline block. Let's see what we get here. I think it'll work. And I am being mindful of time because, there we go. So, what's going on there? Okay. So I forgot about our A tag. So technically speaking, this link component is generating an A tag that has all this content inside of it. So I'm styling this as though we're styling the list item, but we're not technically. We're styling the contents of the A tag. So the reason why that worked is the A tag is the thing that was actually responsible for the width of the element. So I want to see, I'm not fully sold on this, but I want to see, can we knock those out and just get away with that? And if we can, great. If not, worry about... Oh, weird. Okay, so it did do it, but it didn't do the nice ellipsis on the end that kind of tells you. So the difference being that this looks like somebody made a typo, whereas the ellipsis kind of gives you the hint that like, oh, okay, there's something trailing off here. So let's see. We just need that. Maybe. No, wow, okay, so we do need the width too. So, all right. That is acceptable. I'll take it. And notice that our alignment is off, and that's because I put this in the wrong spot. And technically, the list item doesn't need it because it doesn't have any direct children. So we're going to take that and do one of those. Hopefully there's no weird conflicts. I don't think there will be. Yeah, look at that. Nice. So now we want to clean up the actual text styles because I don't like this thing. And you'll also notice that the link is being applied directly to the text, which is the default browser behavior. But ideally, if for some reason you clicked on the image or something, I want this link to cover everything. Well, I guess it does cover the image too, but literally any tap target inside of this list item I want clickable. So the way that we do that is we're going to set the list item to position relative, which means that we've basically created a boundary for where things can go relative to that list item. So literally one of these. So if you think like between all the borders here, we've created that as a box. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to set the A tag to be position, not podio, position absolute. And we're going to say top 0, left 0, right 0, bottom 0. So what that's going to do is it's going to force the A tag to stretch to fill the entire contents of the list item. And so now it doesn't matter where I click inside of here. Yep, I forgot something here. So this padding needs to move down to the A tag as well. Because again, that's the thing that's actually creating the list item, or that's the thing that's actually filling out the content for the list item. Oh my lord. Look at that. That's not what I expect. What did I do? So I've got padding, 10 pixels, list items position relative. All right, this is when I start to go into this and make sure I didn't do something obvious. So list item, what if I set you to display block? No. This trick may not work. Let's see, can I get away with this? Well, albeit it doesn't work. I actually expected that to work. So let's see. Oh, well, duh. We don't need to do the position absolute. We just get rid of that. The reason why is if the A tag is the thing that's taking on the padding, there's no need to extend the A tag forcibly to the edges because it is the edges. So I'll explain that in a second. Let's make sure this works. But I'm pretty sure that will do the trick here. Yeah, okay. So to explain that, if we inspect this, notice that, and you can even see it. So if you look, when I hover, the thing that Chrome is seeing or the DOM is seeing is the A tag, even though the A tag is enclosed by that list item. So just by nature of setting the padding on the A tag, we've already filled out the space. So what that gets us is, you'll notice I can move my cursor just inside of this line, and it's going to hit the link for that thing. So what that's doing is it's making the tap target or the click target a hell of a lot easier to get to as a user. They're not going to have to be as accurate, which can be frustrating. Like, I don't know if you've ever used a UI where they only link the text and you sit there clicking on the row and it doesn't work. It'll drive you absolutely insane. So we're going to make sure that we don't drive people insane. And the only other thing I'm not sold on is the color. So we're going to say, and again, we got to be careful here. So the A tag is what we want to color, because the A is going to take on that natural blue color from the browser. So we want to say, we're going to say color is black. How are we doing on time here? Apparently I stopped this at some point. Did I stop this? We gotta check our record here. It says I'm recording. Yeah, looks like we're good. Okay. I might have this in 2 chunks here. So if this gets interrupted after the edit, I apologize, but we should be good. Okay. So let's see. I changed my hotkey on my keyboard, and so now I accidentally bump it. I made it like the hotkey for turning recording on and off. So hopefully I didn't goof this up too much. So let's see here. So we've got all of this. And yeah, that color's looking a little bit better. So now let's get rid of that text decoration. So I'm going to say, when you hover over the A tag, I'm going to say text decoration none. And then we're going to set the color back to primary, which is like the command blue or the Clever Beagle blue. And then that should look pretty decent. So if we switch, yeah, there we go. And notice I can hover anywhere over here and it kind of lights it up. And we get this nice little switcher. So I'm thinking here that we may want to do the rest of the wiring on this next week, because this one's going pretty long. So it goes. That's how this stuff kind of works. So I think I am going to go ahead and wrap up here. And then next week we'll pick up on the actual data wiring and the interaction to do the redirects and all that stuff, because that'll be kind of fun. And we may even look at the search as well. So again, I want to say, like, if I have a bunch of these, and you know what, why don't we do that as our last little bit before we wrap up. If I have a bunch of these products, I don't want this thing to just shoot down the page. Like, it should go no further than this, and then you have to kind of like scroll in it, and it'd be nice if you have a search at the top that you can use to whittle down the list. Actually, let's just go ahead and add that in. Why not? Why not? So we're going to say, I'm going to call this search in here reluctantly, because that might burn us at some point. Is that going to auto import? Yes. Kind of. That is not what I expected. I see what it's doing. That's kind of neat. So I might actually change that back later. So what that was doing is it was giving me a direct path to only that component inside of the CSS framework I'm using for this fur. So we're going to say form dot input. I forgot. I completely forgot. I'm trying to think where we can find this. Yeah, I'm not crazy. It's just not auto-completing. Okay, well, since we're here, we'll just steal whatever this is. And we'll go ahead and pop it in here. And then we'll say, okay, we've got our email address. Email address. See, my brain's like, what the hell are you talking about? So we're just going to call this state search Yeah, and that's fine because we're in the context of the product switcher. So we'll just say searches, just nothing to start. And I'm doing an empty string because we're going to be typing a string value here, so that's going to ensure that this doesn't break something. And then we're going to say this.handle search. And what I'm going to do is just placehold this for now, meaning I'm going to wire it up, but this is probably not going to be the final thing that we end up with. So usually when I want to get something out of my head, but I'm not going to finish it right then and there, I'll just kind of quickly wire something up and then come back to it. So I'm going to call this text even though it's a type of search. And I want to say I have a search. You know what? I think I do. See, I'm doing work I don't even need to do. Almost certain that I created a search. Yes, I did. So it goes. We're just going to ignore that. Well, kind of. So, look at that. Consistency. So we've got this state search, handle search, and then we've got handle clear search. So, and this is exactly what I was getting at earlier with consistency, whether it's file names, method names, whatever. Because this search input is doing the same thing technically everywhere. It's searching different things, but it's searching... how do you explain that? So it's searching different things. So it might be searching products. It might be searching, cards or something like that. But the concept of the search is always the same. So what I just afforded myself by copying and pasting this and using the same names, keeping the same names, you'll notice that I don't have to think about this. I can just quickly say, like, oh, I need to add search functionality. That's cool. Let me just bring it over and be done with it. So if you're ever skeptical of doing anything consistently, well, there you go. Make sure that you're doing your best. I swear they changed VS Code. This did not look like this. I'm getting tripped up. I'm like, wait a minute, this looks different. So we're going to say, and you know what? I think I'm in the components directory. Yeah, so I should just be able to do something like search input. There you go. Yeah, so we have our search input. Yeah, so I was saying search for cards to add. So I'm just going to say search products and handle clear search. We don't need an event. We're just going to set search to nothing and save that. Now this I do expect to look a little goofy. So we're going to add some padding and we're going to match the padding of each of the list items so visually it doesn't look out of place. And if it does look out of place, then we'll change it. I'm also going to say border bottom black light. So this is going to create a separation between the list and the search input, or the search area, I should say, because I wrapped it with a box. So we'll see. How does this look? Yeah, okay, not bad. I'm not fully convinced, but it at least kind of ticks the box. And again, the point here being that we want to get the idea out of our head. So I'll probably tweak this a little bit more before we go into the actual wiring up of the data and all that stuff and the search functionality. But for now, I think that's a good bit of progress here. And just because I'm obsessive, we're going to change this. For some reason, this font size does not look correct to me. So the hierarchy here looks a little bit strange. And I'm not entirely sure why. It may just not be setting. There we go. Yeah. See, it just looks a little more pleasing to the eye. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it for this Feature Friday, folks. Thanks for watching. As always, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and tap the bell button next to it so you get notifications as soon as these are released. So thanks for watching, and we'll pick up next week.